Welcome back, patreon.com/the Derrick Lamon Experience, your one-stop shop for your news about just random shit. To get these episodes when they drop on Sunday afternoons at 2 p.m., you must be subscribed to the Patreon. Everyone else will get them days later on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Now, the perk, you're like, oh, well, then why don't I just wait for the free version? That's cool. The perk of being a patron is that you get exclusive audio and video content made by myself and my kid, as well as other family members and stuff like that. It's a family affair over here at the Derrick Lamont Experience. But I am El Jefe. Don't forget that. So today, really quickly, I just want to talk about something. I'm not a big TikToker. I don't really care for the shit, but I've been doing this thing on Sundays. How can The Last of Us TV show piss me off today? It's not so much that I hate the show. I don't hate Bella Ramsey. I was only vaguely aware of the girl before she was cast as Ellie. Number one, I was like, well, Game of Thrones, hello. And I was like, I didn't like Game of Thrones. I tried the first 2 episodes and I was like, this ain't for me. I'm not going to be like, this show fucking sucks. No, at my age, at my big grown ass age, now I'm just like, I'm not going to say something sucks. I'm just going to tell you it's just not for me. Lil Yachty. I'm not going to say his music sucks, but I do think it sucks. But generally, I'm just saying, hey, props to him. Props to him for, living his dream. It just ain't for me. And that's all there is to it. So I love The Last of Us as an IP. This particular season, some of these episodes haven't been for me. Neil Druckman was on Sacred Symbols Plus. That is available on Patreon, but it's available everywhere today with Colin Moriarty talking about the situation. Something that I brought up and that everybody keeps bringing up is, well, Joel was wrong. He could have saved mankind. We're going to get into my thoughts in a second, but here we go from GamesRadar.com. 12 years after The Last of Us' ambiguous ending sparked a decade of debate, creator Neil Druckmann has settled it, quote, our intent was that they could have made a cure. Season 2 of The Last of Us is marching on, and the original game co-creator Neil Druckmann is setting the record straight on whether or not the Fireflies would have made a cure if Joel hadn't intervened. Since The Last of Us came out in 2013, we've debated if we would have chosen to kill the Firefly doctors to save Ellie, or we would have let them study her brain, killing her for a chance at finding a cure to the cordyceps infection ravaging the human race. It was an impossible choice, the human race or your humanity. A wrinkle in the choice, one that made Joel more sympathetic, was that we didn't know if the Fireflies would actually be able to make a cure. In the game itself, no one knows if Ellie's immunity can be copied or used to help other people. Would you sacrifice a child who would essentially become your daughter for just a chance to develop a vaccination? My answer has always been no, and it will continue to be no. I have several points about this. Number one, they had to study her brain because the cordyceps virus attacks your brain stem, if I remember correctly, and the brain in general. So there was no way around that. But I have other points, and I'll share that with you in a second. The debate has been raging for 12 years. The ambiguity has led to different perspectives and arguments all being true at once, keeping the game interesting all these years, but now Druckmann has a definitive answer. Quote, could the Fireflies make a cure? Druckmann asked in a clip posted to Reddit. Our intent was that yes, they could. Now, is our science a little shaky that now people are questioning it? Yeah, it was a little shaky, and now people are questioning that. I can't say anything. All I can say is that our intent is that they would have made a cure. So there you have it. Joel doomed the world by selfishly choosing to save Ellie. No more debate is needed. That's not true, because we're about to debate this shit right now, baby. It's his fault the cycle of violence continues. That makes this the most interesting philosophical question for what Joel does, Druckmann adds, but a lot of fans disagree. Here's why I disagree. A bloat or a shambler, you're not going to get close to it to actually stick this cure in it. That's number one. So the only people who could have been saved are people who had recently got bitten, like runners and stuff like that. They have to be early enough to where the virus has not consumed their body to where basically the mushroom of it hasn't started sprouting out their heads. They're not clickers or anything yet. They're just runners. Maybe. This is my argument, and this is going to be my argument until the end of time, and I don't care if you guys don't like it or not. This is the problem. And I'm going to use our world versus their world. Now, they live in the United States, and that's true. We all understand that. Jackson's in Wyoming. Obviously, they traveled through Pittsburgh. They were in Boston, the Boston QZ. Initially, the game starts in Austin, Texas. They go to Seattle. So they live in our world, but they live in a video game version of our world, a post-apocalyptic video game version of our world. Understand this. We recently just went through a pandemic. Obviously, COVID-19, the coronavirus, the pandemic. Other countries that already locked down, we locked down. in March of 2020. I remember it very well. Our pandemic did not decimate our world. Their pandemic did. This is why they could have developed a cure, but it was not going to save the world. During our pandemic, people were still getting on airplanes. People were still driving in cars, taking trains, buses, all of that stuff. Traveling was still happening. You could barely travel in their fucking world. Why? Because the highways and freeways and whatever the fuck you call them where you're from, we call it the highway here, they call it the freeway in LA. Wherever you're from, those places were stockpiled with cars, trucks, 18-wheelers, etc., etc. So cross-country travel in a vehicle, not exactly easy. Well, Derek, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm going to tell you this in a second. Somebody else brought this up, and I didn't even think about this till I saw it in the YouTube comments. I was like, awesome. I'm glad you said this. The one thing I can tell you, you don't see. So we do know, if you didn't pay attention, in the scene where Joel gets killed, when they go in the garage and they're tying the horses up, and only Abby knows that it's Joel and Tommy at this point. Because Owen's like, can I talk to you? He's like, you have no idea how lucky you are. And the rest of them are making conversation because they don't realize that this is the fucking Joel that they've been looking for. They're making conversation. If you pay attention, as they're exiting the door, coming out of the garage into that little lounge area, whatever the fuck of the basement, there was a Hummer, basically a Hummer there. The Wolves didn't walk. They didn't walk to Jackson. They drove there, somewhat. Or maybe that Hummer belonged to the people that lodge belonged to. I don't know. But we do know that there was some driving the series. Obviously, when you get to Billstown, you're trying to get a vehicle. That's the whole reason you're going there. And you spend your time in Billstown running around trying to find the battery for the truck. And then you put it in the truck. And then as they tell Ellie to get up front, as they push it, and then you have infected running out of houses and you've got to kill them and stuff. Then you get out of that you get in that truck, and then you drive, and then you get to Pittsburgh, and that's where shit goes haywire for Joel and Ellie. But there's a lot of abandoned vehicles all over the place. So driving from one end of Route 66 all the way across the country probably wasn't going to be much of an option unless you had an off-road vehicle, right? Let's take that out of the equation, right? The one thing that we don't have is mass transit systems and transportation that can take you from one end of the country to the other, a train or a plane. There are no planes in the sky. Again, during our pandemic, I saw planes take off. I saw planes leave. My parents were back and forth on planes because they had just moved to Florida right before lockdown. And then we lost some people in our family and they had to fly back for the funerals. You don't see a plane flying anywhere in the universe of The Last of Us. You just don't. So how would they, then number two, I'm going to get to this in a second. This isn't just the United States of America that was infected. The entire world was infected. So if they create this cure in a hospital in Utah, in Salt Lake City, how do they get it out to the rest of the world? How? Because there are no planes. And this ain't fucking the days of the Mayflower and sailing the seven seas. You know, that's not going to work. Somebody else brought the fact that there are no 18-wheelers. There are no refrigerated trucks to keep the cure cold. Very, very interesting. I never even thought about that. And when the person put that in the YouTube comments, I was like, this is an excellent fucking fact, and thank you. Now, my last point of all of this is, you don't see any factories going. They were not going to mass produce a cure in Salt Lake City in that hospital that would have healed the entire world. So I understand Neil Druckman and Bruce Straley created this game. Shout out to Bruce Straley because they didn't credit him. He had to basically demand his credit when they put it on HBO. And they initially, I think the first episode, he's not listed as a creator of the game. And he had to actually come out and say something. And then I believe by the time the second episode aired, his name was in the credits. But there are no factories running in the world of The Last of Us to mass produce this cure. You're hunting and scrounging and doing everything to come across, stuff for healing and ammunition and stuff like that to survive this world. So where are the resources to mass produce this cure? What are the resources? Then you'd essentially have to tie up somebody who's infected and use them as the guinea pig to see if it even works. So maybe they could have created a cure. Stands to be possible. Would I have sacrificed my kid for it? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Abso-fucking-lutely not. Was Joel wrong? It depends on who you ask. Because Joel killed a lot of people in that hospital, that's true. But I guarantee you, we all know that Joel wasn't Abby's first kill. Mel even calls her Isaac's #1 scar killer. That wasn't Manny's first shot at somebody. Owen, when he had the situation with, I forget whichever character it was, where he shot the guy and then Isaac said that, he's dead to us basically, or blah, 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 blah. Like, Joel wasn't the first kill for any of them. So understand this, violence only begets more violence. They were all fucking wrong. Mel being so high and mighty, and Manny's like, well, she's not a grunt like we are. She's a doctor. I refuse to believe that Mel would never made a kill in that world. That doesn't make sense to anybody with a fucking brain. It just doesn't. So while everybody's like, well, Joel was wrong, some people are like, Joel was right, some people... Generally, the people that you hear or you see say Joel was wrong are people who don't have kids. And they like the emotional connection. Anybody, it took them a year to cross the country. Keep that in mind. They went from Boston to Jackson, where the dam was, from Jackson, Wyoming to Colorado, because Colorado State is where the Fireflies were supposed to be. Then Joel gets hurt, they hide out, and then they go from there to Salt Lake City, Utah. And then after Joel eviscerates everybody in the hospital, they then go from Salt Lake City back to Jackson. He spent, and that's why they earmark it like summer, fall, spring, like winter. Like, he spent all this time with this girl. And keep in mind, when Joel got hurt, it was Ellie who nursed him back to health. We didn't know if Joel was alive or not. It took a while before we found out if Joel was actually still alive. That was his daughter. And it was a second chance at raising his daughter, because we see in the beginning of the game his actual physical, biological daughter get killed. So could they have made a cure? Seems like Dr. Anderson was pretty good at what he did. So yeah, Neil Druckman says he could have done it. That's perfectly fine, but it wasn't going to heal the world because they couldn't have mass produced it, for one, and they did not have any way to distribute it to the rest of the world. And that has been my argument, and I will be steadfast in that. Anyway, that's all the time I got for you guys today. I'm going to end this like I end everything else. Believe in yourself first and foremost, because if you don't believe in yourself, of course, nobody else will believe in you. As always, my name is Derrick Lamon Jackson, and that is my time. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.